Welcome back to another episode of Believe in TCU. I'm Zion Trammell with my co-host Seth Dowdle. Seth, you're shaking your head before we even started.
It's going to be a bad time in Provo, folks.
Well,
Maybe, I don't know.
Seth started us off there. TCU football coming off a abysmal loss to Iowa State, heading to Provo to take on BYU. We're gonna preview this game here. And look, the vibes are still down. I'll just make that clear. Like it's hard to have any optimism when you lose by 3 to a Iowa State team that was pretty bad over the last several weeks, and Horned Frogs coming off a bye as well. Just
Really? No one told me that.
yeah, I think your cat is trying to tell you that. But
Yeah, listen,
yeah.
this might be an episode where the mute button is clicked fast because we got an angry kitty.
Yeah, all good, all good. So, yes, TCU taking on BYU at 9:15 here in local Texas time.
Can it get any worse? I have
Can't
to
get any
stay
worse.
up.
Yeah, till midnight at least.
And it's the
At
only
least.
game that's going to be on. Everyone that's watching college football will be watching TCU football. By the way, I saw the ratings for TCU Iowa State a little higher than I wanted those to be. More people saw that than I would have liked.
I think, it being on Fox following where a lot of eyes were on that Penn State Indiana game probably helped. And so, hey, maybe some of that was just people leaving the TV on and going to do something else.
Maybe they left the house.
Yeah, they left the house, left the TV on, doing other things, ignoring what happened with TCU. But yeah, late kickoff on ESPN. BYU, that stadium is going to be rocking. Those fans are going to be into it. Look, the Cougars, they themselves are not coming off a great performance either. Okay, obviously, they with the nation's eyes on them, they got their butts kicked by Texas Tech in Lubbock, losing 29-7, easily the worst performance they've had this season. But this team kind of feels a little similar to last year's team, like just getting by, not really kind of flying under the radar, but they're squeaking by with some wins here. They beat Arizona in overtime. They beat Utah by 3. That was a good game. Beat Colorado by 3. So, they're kind of living on the edge here, and then they got a little bit exposed against Texas Tech. But I think at the end of the day, the Red Raiders are just really good, and I think BYU is still a solid team.
I would agree with that. I think that this team, to a certain degree, has a little bit more of an identity maybe than last year's team. They really love pounding that rock, and they got a quarterback that loves to do it too, in Bear Bachmeier, who wants to go out there and just kind of, he wants the contact. He's seeking it out. He's not going to slide. The running game is kind of their identity too. If they don't average at least 4 yards per carry, they're going to lose. They didn't do that against Texas Tech. They're a very easy team to figure out. If they're able to run the ball on you, then it's probably over. And so TCU's got to be able to hone in on that. But for BYU, right, they're coming off of this loss. And we talked about it from the TCU perspective, how much of a must-win game last week was for them. The same is very much true for BYU this week. If they don't win out, their chances of potentially going to the college football playoff and potentially maybe even the Big 12 championship game are in the toilet. So they got to go out there and perform and win against the Frogs today, or the Frogs on Saturday as well. And so this is a big game for both teams.
It is, and BYU definitely, they're not going to have the full respect of the committee if they lose another game. I think if they lose, unless you make it to the Big 12 title game, like if you lose in the Big 12 title game, okay, maybe you should be fine. But
even then, I don't know.
But if you lose in the regular season, I think it's over, and it's kind of unfortunate because there's going to be some SEC Big 10 teams that have the same amount of losses, and they'll get a little more leeway, but for BYU, not so much. So
yeah, and I don't want to make this a BYU, like what they need to do to make the playoff. But the wins, I mean, you just said it. They're not really there. Their best win's
Yeah,
Utah. And that's a
yeah.
good win. That's a really good win. But 3-point win against Colorado. It's kind of skating by against Arizona. An improved Arizona team. I do want to add that. West Virginia played them pretty close for a little while. But I honestly think a win over TCU would be a good win for them. But we'll see if that happens. I don't know. BYU can make the playoff. That's the point. If they win, they can make the playoff. TCU cannot, though. Unfortunately, I don't know if y'all heard about that. TCU can't make the playoff anymore. They have 3 losses. I don't know how.
Or the Big 12 title game. It's unfortunate that it was cool that we got to this point where there was still a chance last week, but I think that's kind of the bare minimum. And the fact that that's no longer reality and we still have 3 games left is pretty unfortunate, especially considering what TCU has ahead of them. There's not a single game that I can confidently say they will win. Now, will they win? Maybe. Yeah, they might. They could somehow get 2 out of 3 here. You never know, but it's not super confident. And so because of that tough schedule, though, a lot of eyes will be on, a lot of Big 12 fans and teams will have their eyes on TCU football because they can certainly impact the Big 12 title race because they get BYU, they get Houston, they get Cincinnati. There's some opportunities for TCU to play spoiler and kick some teams out. And, that's something to keep an eye on, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's kind of something you don't really think about now that you're in this situation where you're on the outside looking in, but you play 3 teams that are in the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And while you might not be able to go through the door, you can certainly yank them outside with you. Should you go out there and spoil their party? That starts against BYU.
Willie Fritz, you're coming out the door with us.
Come here. Brendan Sorsby, welcome. And it's Utah, Texas Tech at the end. That's maybe what we're playing, is what this is going towards, if TCU is able to do what they need to do. But also at the same time, there's also this chance that we've talked about extensively where they don't play spoiler and they themselves are spoiled by getting beat to death by 3 teams that are probably better than it. And then they end the year 6-6, and that's the nightmare scenario.
That is the nightmare scenario. All 6 losses coming in conference play. Like, that's brutal. That would be absolutely brutal. And I think there would be some more conversations that would need to be had this offseason. But I really don't want to think about that scenario until it actually happens, if it happens.
No, I think that a win here would go along. Obviously, if you win, you don't go 6-6, but it would go a long way to alleviating fears that like 7-5, which would also feel really disappointing, would be something that was in the cards. Because if you lose this one, you're 6-4. You have to win out to get to 8 wins and match what you did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're looking for steps forward here, and we're not looking for steps back. But we've gone on and on and on and on about TCU and the disappointment that this season is. Zion, what do they need to do in Provo to beat BYU? What's BYU going to do to them?
I was gonna ask you that, but I'll take it. I'll take it first. Yeah, look. At the end of the day, there is still talent, a lot of talent on this TCU football team. They've shown resiliency last year. I'm not gonna sit here and say that they have absolutely no chance to beat BYU. I think getting over these first quarter woes would be a good start. Trying to figure out an identity, just have something that could work a little bit differently. Hey, let's take a deep shot. Maybe a little play action, heave it up to McAllister. I don't know, just something different in that in the first quarter, because I feel like TCU plays it very conservative in the early going. There's not a lot of play calling that's really inspiring, and they don't really move the ball very well in the first quarter. And if you want to find yourself winning this football game, you got to take the BYU crowd out of it as much as possible. get some early momentum. Hey, the Cougars, they're down right now. They just lost by 22 to Texas Tech in the biggest game of the season. Obviously, they're looking to bounce back, and I'm sure the coaching staff has done a good job of getting them ready. But if you can get out to an early lead, maybe find something early going on, you could there is a blueprint to winning this game.
I've been somewhat surprised, and I was really surprised about it against Iowa State at how little they are taking shots down the field in the vertical passing game. They just don't do it that often. And I was super surprised that they didn't do it against an Iowa State secondary that was super depleted. They did a lot of stuff that was short of the sticks, meshes, slants, stuff Kendall Briles loves to do. We talked about that to death. Can we get a seam route, please? I'm begging you. It's not like they have guys that can't beat people over the top. Like I refuse to believe that is not possible with the receivers that they have. And they also have a quarterback that can hit those types of plays. Was really surprised that they didn't do that. And you're so right. If they can get out to that start with that type of play calling, perhaps maybe this is a different type of football game than maybe we're kind of thinking it is going to be right now. Now, they're probably not going to have a good running game in this one.
Kevorian Barnes is out for this game, unfortunately.
Yeah, and BYU is pretty good in the trenches. So they're probably not going to be able to assert their will. And that is just not their identity. They're trying to make it their identity. That they've really been trying to run the football well. You know what? We're done with it. Throw it 100 times. Like you can't do it. You can't run the ball. So stop.
They threw it 50 times against Iowa State, so
they did lose.
And they could double it. They could double it this game. I think it's gonna be tough sledding running the football, whether it's Jeremy Payne or Trent Battle or whoever. It's not going to be easy. BYU has a pretty good defense, but against Texas Tech last week, the Red Raiders were able to move the ball pretty well, but they kicked a lot of field goals. How many did they kick? Like 4?
If Texas Tech had cashed in all their scoring opportunities, that game would have been like 45-7.
Exactly. So, and TCU has been pretty okay in the red zone, I guess.
Better than I thought they'd be. They were terrible the last couple of years, but they've been better than I thought they'd be.
Yeah, they've been better this season. It's not like TCU can't move the ball at all. I mean, Texas Tech was able to do it. Other teams have done it in the past, and I know I keep going back to that game. But yeah, there has been games this season where BYU's been kind of beaten down on the defensive end. So it all falls on the offense, in my opinion, in this game. And I think the defense will do an okay job. They'll probably do their part. Bear Bachmeier's having a good season. Obviously, LJ Martin's a good running back. They got Chase Roberts out wide. So I expect that BYU is going to do okay on offense, but I think the TCU defense should be up to the task. It's really on the offense that I'm looking at, like, okay, you got to do your part here.
Well, it really is, because like the defense is probably going to give up 24 to 30 points. That is my guess. Or like 20 to 30 points in that range, right?
Yeah.
That's going to happen, and that's fine. BYU is going to do that to you. They're going to run the ball. They're going to try to maintain time of possession. They're going to try to bleed you out slowly. If TCU's offense is operating like it is supposed to, like we are told it is supposed to, you are going to be able to score quicker than they can. And so you should be able to put up points in bunches. Obviously, we know that is just a theory, and that theory, when tested, has failed multiple times so far this season. And I expect that it probably will again in Provo. But that's the plan. That's what TCU's got to do. Lean into what you do well. It's Josh Hoover. Those receivers are freaking awesome. You have better. Your top 2 wide receivers are better, in my opinion, than any offensive player that BYU has. That's maybe LJ Martin, but that's it, right? Your receivers are better than theirs. Your quarterback is better than theirs. maybe like in terms of like doing what we'd say a typical quarterback does. Definitely a passer. Josh Hoover's a better passer than Bear Bachmeier. Bear Bachmeier's a better runner. You have the better offense in theory.
Yeah.
But that's just a theory. And personally, I expect them to crash and burn again. Like I have not been given any evidence over the past 2.5 weeks, past 3 years, that tells me that they're going to go out there and put up a 4-quarter performance. And that's one of the things that like they've just been saying it so much. Like Colton Deary and Paul Olawale came out of the press conference after the Iowa State game, and they were asked kind of like, does this team have a problem closing out games? And their response was, very media trained, very like Coach Dykes always preaches about playing a 4-quarter game. I'm like, that's great, but y'all never do.
Can you do it, please?
And so
talk about it.
We'll see if they can do that. We'll see if they can play, because they play pretty well in the second and third quarters. Can they play good in the first and the fourth? My guess, no. I don't know about you, but my guess is no, especially against a BYU team that's probably better than any team you've played so far this year.
I mean, yeah, you haven't stacked up well against teams that are inferior to you. How are you going to stack up against a team that's a lot better? I mean, this is quite easily the toughest game that TCU has had this season. I mean, it's not even close. Arizona State at the time was a good team, and they're still good. SMU is fine, but
SMU might make the playoff, guys.
We're already talking sad about enough sad things. I don't want to. I don't want to talk about that.
Sorry. It's an outside shot, but it's possible. I'm sorry.
So you're saying that TCU beat a potential CFP?
There you go.
CFP team. Well, they could have a chance here this week, But yeah, I mean, look, it's. We don't want to bash on TCU. We want them to succeed, obviously. Like, we're trying our hardest to be optimistic, but they're just not giving us much to work with here. It's been just brutal. Even against West Virginia. I mean, we really, to be honest, Seth, I mean, I don't know about you, but I really haven't felt like satisfied with a win since SMU. Like, in conference play, they have not played a conference game. They beat Colorado, they beat Baylor, and they beat West Virginia. But there wasn't like in any of those wins where I was like, yep, they did their job. Obviously beating Baylor was fun, and that was great, and I enjoyed it. They almost blew a 21-point lead with like 3 minutes left, and we found ourselves talking about that. So maybe we need to be a little more positive and focus on the good things, but I don't think they've played a complete conference game yet.
And even that SMU game was a bit of a – they were losing in the fourth quarter. But obviously that game felt – I see what you're saying. That was probably like the best – that's probably their best performance of the season against a team that's actually like competent.
Yeah.
Like the North Carolina game was obviously their best performance of the year, but that North Carolina team was like broken
in week 1.
Yeah, I know. They're getting better though. That's looking like a more quality win. They've won a couple games in a row now. I agree with you, and that's really sucky. And I feel like we've been building toward that conclusion for a couple weeks now, that there's just no complete game for TCU this season. Ironically, their best quarter or their best game, like their best first quarter was in a game they lost against Arizona State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy. It's wild. It's just been such a disappointing year, and not the season that I think anyone in this program or fans wanted. And we'll see. We laid out some things for TCU to win offensively. another thing I wanted to hit on too is special teams, because last week was really rough. Kyle Lemmerman is out, so Nate McCashlin will still be kicking the football.
He's probably out for the year, right?
They keep saying that he might come back.
It's November 13th.
It is. I just don't see it. I really don't. And look, I know Nate McCashlin. I think he was named the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week not too long ago. But
After the West Virginia game, go read about it on TCU Horned Frogs NSI. I wrote about it.
He was largely, yes. Go check it out. I do remember you writing about that.
Like 2 weeks old, and it's very outdated now.
A little bit. He was largely responsible for TCU beating West Virginia, but he was part of the reason that TCU lost against Iowa State. Missing that 26-yard field goal was rough. And so special teams has got to be better. If you have any chance to beat BYU, you got to make your kicks. You got to win the field position battle. Ethan Craw, got to lock in, man. Just boot that thing. Just destroy that football.
Not too far, though. Don't outkick your coverage.
Well, yes. They did that, and they lost the game because of it. So,
yeah, special teams has been bad all year, though.
Yeah. Can we steal back Darius Davis and Griffin Kell, and who's our punter? What was his name?
Jordan Sandy.
Yeah. Can we get those guys back? Sorry, that's rude. That's really rude. To the guys on our team, we appreciate you, but
make the 26-yard field goal though.
Yeah, like that'd be good. I do apologize. I don't mean to bash on you guys too much, but we do expect a little better.
Listen, college kicking for the most part has gotten a lot better than and this year I was watching Iowa, Oregon, and those boys are booting things. I was like, whoa, this is like the Iowa kicker hit a 55-yarder and it was literally a line drive. Like it was it barely got over the head of the offensive and defensive lineman, and just like it was basically like a Mookie Betts throw from right field. Like it just whoop. It was so awesome. And then there was like the Oklahoma kicker's a psycho. He just kicking things from, and then TCU's running out there and doinking kicks from the 5, doinking extra points.
That's unfortunate, man. That's crazy though. I can't believe the level at which kickers have gotten to at this point. So it's crazy, man. But yeah, any other thoughts on this game, Seth?
BYU's going to want to be physical. They're going to want to out physical you, and that's what TCU struggles with against teams that want to assert their will, in the trenches on the lines of scrimmage. TCU really struggles against those teams. Arizona State, Kansas State, Iowa State, LLL. Maybe another L here. They just don't have the bodies, at least on the offensive line, right? To when was the last time TCU up in a game just decided we're just going to lean on you and we're just going to 5 yards, ball game? When was the last time that happened? Years ago is the answer. It was years ago. Mm-hmm. The answer legitimately, and this please, I beg anyone to correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the only one that comes to the top of my head. The answer legitimately might be at Texas 2022.
Oof. I can't name anything off the top of my head, but you, oh my gosh. Seth's cat just jumped right in the way. He said
it was the other one too. It wasn't even the usual one. Golly,
the usual suspect just got right in the way, right in front of Seth's camera. If that isn't a sign of where TCU and where we're at right now,
Um,
I don't
yeah,
know what to tell you.
I think they lose the game. I don't know about you.
Well, I think so too. This is my first time picking against the Frogs. I got the Cougars winning 24-17. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game at night. I think, again, TCU's defense will keep them in it. I don't know if the offense will have enough juice. Unfortunately, I'm going to go with the Cougars.
I got BYU 30-20. How do you think the crowd affects them?
I think offensively, I think there's going to be a lot of penalties. I could see a lot of miscommunication and playing at night. Is it going to be cold? I'm sure it will be.
Oh boy,
Provo?
Provo, November. It sounds like a place that gets cold.
I could check real quick, let's take a look. Provo, Utah, Saturday,
Oh, it's gonna be very pleasant.
45 with a low 45, high of 61. That's not bad. Gets really cold next week, so that's good.
Partly cloudy. It's supposed to snow next week in Provo.
How about that? Meanwhile, we get 80-degree weather in November. So, that's kind of what I mean. It's not going to be super cold, but it'll be a little chilly.
Little like ooh.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
that's gonna be. You're gonna walk outside.
Yeah.
You're like ooh.
Yeah, I might need a jacket. That's where TCU's at. But we'll see. It's this might be the most unserious preview we've ever done. But look, if TCU's out of it,
for the most serious game of the year.
yeah, we're gonna have a little fun. Is there anything really? I mean, looking at the Big 12 score or games this weekend, Arizona Cincinnati could be a little interesting.
Ooh, yeah.
That could have some intrigue. Not much though on the slate this weekend. Utah taking on Baylor in Waco. So
Arizona State needs to watch out for West Virginia.
yeah, they do. I'm surprised that ASU's favored by 10.5 points. That game will be on TNT. They're at home, but West Virginia, they've won 2 in a row. They almost beat TCU. Scotty Fox Jr., dark horse Heisman candidate. You heard it here first.
Next year.
It's the only place that you'll hear it.
Yeah, no Sam Levitt, no Jordan. I don't know if Jordan Tyson's playing. He hasn't played the last couple of weeks. We'll see about that one. And Utah Baylor. I just don't think Baylor. I think Utah's literally gonna hand it off 400 times, and that's a ball game.
Yeah.
TCU was able to run the ball on Baylor. Utah will be able to run the ball on Baylor.
Yeah, it's been tough sledding for Baylor, and they got a dominant win against UCF before their bye week, but be a tough matchup with Utah. Texas Tech.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say Texas Tech gonna destroy UCF, and then got Kansas State taking on Oklahoma State. So not a lot of intrigue across the Big 12 this weekend, but surely enough there will be some chaos, I'm sure.
Can I talk to you about something that's interesting though? Of all the games we just mentioned, which one has the lowest point spread?
I'm gonna go Kansas State, Oklahoma State.
No.
Which one is it?
It is TCU, BYU. BYU is favored by 4.5.
Oh, wow. Well, okay, interesting. I saw it was at like 5.5 for the other day. I thought it would go up.
Kansas State is favored by 19.5, just FYI.
Yeah.
Listen, I can give you the reasons for this because there was a time in my youth. I'm still pretty young. I don't know why I mentioned that. There was a time back in the day where I didn't understand point spreads. I didn't understand how it could be possible for number 4 TCU to go into Austin in 2022 and be a 7.5 point underdog. How is that possible? Texas is 8-3. They have 3 losses. TCU doesn't have a single loss. I know. It's just the most absurd thing. And then I learned how these things are created. You're looking at preseason priors, maybe not so much at this point in the season. You're looking at body types. You're looking at talent composites. You're looking at stuff like that. And TCU, on paper, according to the 24/7 composite rankings, according to On3, according to the ESPN recruiting rankings thingy, whatever, according to anybody you ask, on paper, has more talented football players than BYU does.
Wow.
Now, we obviously have results, and results matter in these things a lot, like they do, and that is why BYU is a favorite at home, but also Provo at night. I'd say that gives you around like 3.5 points or whatever so that this line suggests to me that on a neutral field, BYU would be a 1-point favorite against TCU. And so, while we here are like, we have no shot, there's no way TCU goes into Provo and beats the Cougars. There is absolutely no chance. I'll tell you this right now. If TCU beats BYU, I will be shocked, but I will not be surprised.
Okay. You heard it here first. We'll see what happens. I would be surprised. But hey, crazier things have happened. TCU, hey, they played good against BYU the last time these two teams matched up. It was Josh Hoover's
through like 700 yards.
Yeah, I was there in person for that game. Hoover, I think it was his first career start, right?
Yeah.
He balled out. So hoping for similar success. We'll see. But that'll wrap things up here for our TCU BYU preview. Thank you all for listening here. We appreciate it. Again, I know TCU season has not turned out the way that fans had hoped for. And, there's still something to play for, but not a lot. So we do appreciate that you guys tuned into this episode and listened to us kind of rant a little bit, but try to provide a little bit of optimism here and there about TCU football. So again, that kickoff set for 9:15 Central Time in Provo on ESPN. So get some good night's rest the night before, because take a nap if you need to early on. Get an energy drink, whatever you need, because it's going to be a late night for us TCU fans. So thank you all for tuning into this episode of Believe in TCU. You can follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube page, or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, all at Believe in TCU. You can also follow Seth and I on Twitter. So that'll do it. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you guys for the recap of this game. And as always, go Frogs.